Okay, we're ready to go again. Back to the PowerPoint. So the stuff in the cytoplasm is the cytoplasm itself and organelles. The cell membrane keeps the cytoplasm in the cell and keeps all the organelles in the cell. So the cytosol is the fluid in the cell. There's dissolved nutrients and metabolites. There's ions, soluble proteins, structural proteins, and other things like the organelles. So I just said that the inside of the cell is high on potassium. The outside of the cell is high in sodium. There's a higher concentration of inside the cells compared to outside the cell. This maintenance of high extracellular sodium versus high intracellular potassium is essential for the working of muscles and nerves, for instance. These sodium and potassium move in and out of cells to change the electrical voltage of cells and to help carry messages along the cell nerve, to carry messages to all parts of the body, and to carry messages from the external body to the central nervous system. So what are the organelles? They have membranes. Their compartments, their insides are often isolated from the rest of the cytoplasm. The nucleus is an organelle that stores DNA. Mitochondria produce ATP from glucose. Endoplasmic reticulum is a series of tubes and channels, a network of tubes where proteins are transmitted to Golgi apparatus, which is additional tubes that make vesicles, lysosomes of vesicles and peroxisomes of vesicles that release enzymes to help digest, for instance, a bacteria that a white blood cell has consumed. The non-membranous organelles are the cytoskeleton, the microvilli, centrioles, cilia, flagella, ribosomes, and proteasomes. So the cytoskeleton is made up of actin and tubulin. This is part of the cytoskeleton that helps maintain the shape of the cell and allows the cell to move due to its cytoskeleton, allowing it to be able to change its shape and to crawl around like white blood cells. Digestive cells, cells that line the respiratory system, don't go wandering about. But white blood cells move in and out of cells all the time. There are cells in the lungs that move around to clean up the lung from contamination of trash and contamination with foreign cells. The skeleton of the cells, which allows the cell to change its shape and to move along, is due to the cytoskeleton. If you look at the shape of a cell, the cytoskeleton here is going to maintain these microvilli, which are very, very small extensions on digestive cells to allow the digestive cell to absorb these small molecules. The large molecule of the cell, the large molecules that stay inside here and act as cytoskeleton, they do not move in and out, but they allow the cell to maintain its shape and to change its shape to move. Digestive cells in the digestive system basically maintain their shape to allow absorption of food substances to get into the inside of the cell, where they're digested and converted into energy by mitochondria. So make sure you know these microtubules and other substances. Microtubules with microfilaments make up the cell skeleton. All these filaments are involved in the cell skeleton. The endoplasmic reticulum is where secretory vessels are moved substance from the endoplasmic reticulum to create a stored protein that can be sent to the Golgi body and secreted out of the cell, such as insulin coming out of a pancreatic cell. These other non-membranous organelles are centrioles, microvilli, cilia, flagella, ribosomes, and proteasomes. Proteasomes digest damaged proteins. Here's the function of centrioles, microvilli, cilia, flagella, and so on. So the endoplasmic is a network of molecular tubes where rough ER, if it has rough ER, then proteins are synthesized. The smooth ER is where additional proteins and carbohydrates are synthesized, but there's no ribosomes in that smooth ER. But it still is able to synthesize protein and carbohydrates, where the rough ER has ribosomes that are forming a manufacturing site for proteins. So endoplasmic reticulum is rough if it has ribosomes attached to its external surfaces, and it's smooth if it has no ribosomes. And it's a series of connecting tubes where proteins are transmitted ultimately to the Golgi bodies, where they are packaged and released from the cell. So the Golgi, as I said, receives proteins from the rough endoplasmic reticulum. Here's the rough endoplasmic reticulum. It's called rough when there are it's called rough when they contain ribosomes to make proteins that are taken into these channels, these tubes, and transmitted to the Golgi apparatus to package them in vesicles to move, for instance, insulin out of pancreatic cells. The Golgi apparatus receives new proteins from the rough ER, adds carbohydrates and lipids, makes a secretory vesicle, membranes that renew the vesicle of the membrane, and lysosomes, which contain digestive enzymes that are get rid of old cells, dead cells, or any other substance that's not supposed to be in the cell. The lysosome is going to get rid of it. So as the endoplasmic reticulum puts proteins in vesicles, those vesicles are excuse me. So again, the endoplasmic reticulum makes protein, puts them in vesicle, which are further processed to release, for instance, insulin from a pancreatic cell to build lysosomes that contain digestive enzymes to clean up dead cells or trash and to renew the vesicles, renew the structure of the cell membrane. We talk what lysosomes are. Go ahead and read that. Containers of digestive enzyme help consume bacteria in the cell once it's been taken in, get rid of debris, and the cell has to be eliminated. They're in suicide packets. Read that. Cells control what comes in and out of the cell. That is the process of letting certain things in, keeping certain things out, secreting certain substances, all in the goal of releasing enzymes to digest food, to release enzymes that help nerves function, muscle function, brain function. The cells are constantly regulating what the pH system is and how substances, many substances are made by cells, taken in and released. Hormones are released, proteins are released, lysosomes are released, other substances like sugars or sodium, potassium are taken into the cell. So the structure and parts of the cell membrane determine what comes in and what goes out, and that's how homeostasis is maintained. The mitochondria are the powerhouses of the cell. It's where food, glucose is turned into ATP. That's all we got to know. That's what a mitochondria looks like. I'm not going to ask you about these various structures. I want you to know that mitochondria is where glucose is converted into mitosis. I'm sorry, back up. That's where glucose is converted into energy of ATP. Read what mitochondria do. Okay, we don't need to know about the nucleus, chromosomes, none of this stuff we got to know about. Okay, let's go ahead and stop recording. Stop recording. Stop recording.